Hello and welcome to update 144 of my journey with pseudomyxoma peritoni. The shirt I'm wearing today is a Barbie shirt, so come on Barbie, let's go party. And the reason I'm wearing that is because in the first part of this video, I'm going to be, examining myself as if I was a doll. And I'm going to be presenting you with what I think is a bit of a mystery that I don't understand. And I'd like to welcome you to this mystery. It revolves around the tumour marker numbers that I received yesterday, which are unexpectedly really good. They're actually all in the normal range. I'll just pop them up on the screen for you. So as you can see there, my CEA score is 1 and normal is anything under 5. So I am normal, and my CA19-9 score is 17, and I think anything under, I think it's 37 is in the normal range, and that also, anything under 37, which means also that I'm in the normal range. So that's really odd, and the reason it's odd is that my discharge summary from my second operation is, if I'm honest, diabolical reading, and we're going to go through that. So you'll see it for yourself. So on the one hand, I've got this really great result. And on the other hand, the lead up to it was really traumatic. And I'm struggling with putting those two together. I was expecting my blood results to be, certainly abnormal. I was actually expecting them to be fairly bad. So if we compare me post second operation versus post first operation, and I'll just move myself off to the side. So if you look there, when I was 64 days post-op of my second op, I had a CEA of 1 and a CA19-9 of 17. If I compare that to when I was post-op of my first operation, 91 days post-op in that case, I had a CEA of 34 and a CA19-9 of 370. So they were abnormal. Now, I fully expected that this result would be in the abnormal range, and basically what I'd be looking at is a repeat of what happened after my first operation, which is basically that I would get a period of getting better, but my tumour numbers would get worse and worse over time, and eventually they would show up on my CT scan, and I would need to either have a further operation or decline further surgery and presumably pass away. So I'm really surprised that my results have come back normal. Now, so that's the good news, and I have no other explanation for it except to say it's really good news. Let's have a look at what was going on in my mind before we got to that. In other words, I want to read through with you the details of my discharge summary so you can see why I thought that, that things are pretty bad. So here is the description of the operation I had. So this is slide number 1 here. So the description is time out of ABX. ABX is antibiotic regime, I guess. So what they're saying there is, firstly, this person has now had something done that completely invalidates whatever antibiotics they were on before. They're now on a new regime. So just ignore what they were before, time out, okay? Incision XP, I've looked up XP, and what it means is that a different physician did it. It means excluded physician, I think is what the XP is. So it means someone else did my initial incision compared to the rest of the operation. And when you consider that the operation was 13 hours, it would make sense that you would use a variety of surgeons along the way. Extensive adhesiolysis plus. Now, what that means is from my first operation, I had scar tissue. And when you sew that person back up, those bits of scar tissue rest up against each other and they join up. So basically you end up with internal organs that are all stuck to each other. And as you're about to read, from my first operation, I had lots of things that were stuck to lots of other things. So liver partly mobilised to assess diaphragm. So the liver's on the right-hand side of your body. So they've basically partly separated my diaphragm from my liver. So in other words, they were stuck to each other and they've cut them apart just to have a look at the diaphragm because they couldn't see the diaphragm because the liver was in the way. And there was a minimal strip of the right diaphragm. So when they looked at it, they saw that there was a bit of tumour on the right diaphragm and they stripped it off. Underneath that, the stomach was stuck to the left diaphragm with some disease. So here's our first relatively alarming feature, is that my stomach was basically glued, with that scar tissue to the left side of my diaphragm, and there was tumour in there as well. So that sounds really bad to me, but the stomach was mobilised, so they've cut it away, and the left diaphragm was stripped, so they've then removed that disease. So heading on to the next bit of the description, the disease on the stomach was stripped with full thickness hole in the stomach, oversewn 3-0 Victral, which I think is a type of thread, and they've done it 2 layers. Disease on the superior and inferior surface of the pancreas stripped. Superior means the top surface, inferior means the bottom surface. So in other words, the pancreas had tumours above and below it. So it was, right in the middle of tumour. Extensive disease on small bowel resected. So resect means to cut, with 3 full thickness enterotomies and fecal contamination plus 2-layered closure with 3-0 Victral. So let's talk that through. I had 3 holes in my small bowel that were all the way through. And when they removed those tumours, feces from the inside of the bowel came out and contaminated the area around it a lot. That's what the plus means. It means heaps. Okay. A tumour was taken off my transverse colon. So remember, the transverse colon is pretty much the only bit of my large bowel that I have left, and there was a tumour on it, but thankfully it was not full thickness. Bilateral ureters identified and preserved with uretolysis to bladder. So bilateral means both sides, left and right, because you have 2 ureters going from your left kidney and your right kidney. So they've identified them, they've preserved them, which means they didn't have to destroy them, and uretolysis to the bladder. So that means they removed things that weren't meant to be there. Lysis means, hang on, I'm going to have to look this up. I think lysis means to eat, or something like that. I'll look it up. That's what it means, but it means to eat or to cut, I forget. And ureto obviously means to do with my either my ureters or to my bladder. Thick rind of disease on the pelvis. So I don't know what the medical definition of rind is, but I'm guessing it's like the rind of an orange, which means it was thick. So there was a thick rind of disease on the pelvis. Bilateral iliac arteries were dissected out and disease cleared off the retroperitoneum. So they found my iliac arteries, they cut them out of the disease, so they presumably preserved them, and cleared off the retroperitoneum. So I'm guessing that's retro, I guess is like back. So that the back of my peritoneum, and the left gonadal vessel was ligated. So my left testicle has had the vessels going to it have been cut. So I've had half a vasectomy basically. Heading to the next description page, left abdominal wall disease stripped to the iliacs with left femoral nerve identified and preserved. The left vas was divided as involved with thick disease. So the iliac crest is that part of your pelvic bone that sticks up at the top. Like when you put your hands on your hips, you're basically putting your hands on your iliac crests. So they're saying on my left abdominal wall, I had disease going right through my abdominal wall all the way to the iliacs. But they were able to preserve my femoral nerves, my left femoral nerve, which is great because I'm guessing without that I would have reduced feeling in my left hip. But yeah, I did lose my left vas, so that's life. The bladder was stripped. Unable to reverse the end colostomy as insufficient length of colorectal anastomosis. So if you'd remember, we were hoping to reverse my my colostomy. This is the line that says, look, we looked at it, we thought about it, and we realised that we didn't have enough length of colon to do it. So we didn't do it, basically. And then you've got bilateral inferior epigastric vessels ligated. I've looked this up, and the inferior epigastric vessels appear to be blood vessels that run and basically make a loop, from what I can tell. So if you remove those vessels, the full area of your peritoneum still gets blood. It just gets it from a different part of your circulatory system. So in effect, you can do without them. And as it says there, they ligated mine, and I haven't died. So you obviously can actually do without them. So that's that. And next we've got HIPEC with mitomycin C for 90 minutes at 41.5 degrees Celsius, and an intracostal catheter, I think it is, on the left. So that was one of those tubes that I had coming out on my left-hand side. It was in between my ribs. So intracostal means in between the ribs, and it was on my left-hand side. So I've got a nice scar in between my ribs on my left-hand side from that. Oversew the stomach, transverse colon and small bowel serosal tears. A sausage test was negative for leaks. So basically they blow your colon up with air and they check to see if it leaks. It's honestly as easy as that is how they test for leaks. They blow it up and they look. My bladder leak test was negative. I'm not sure how they did that, but they obviously tested my bladder for leaks. And there was a thin area of stripped bladder that they oversewed with 3-0 Victrol. And after that, they determined that I had hemostasis, which means my bloods were even. They weren't in dire straits. Then we've got wash with gentamicin and clindamycin. I've looked those up. They're both really hardcore antibiotics, and that would be because I had fecal matter and all kinds of things in my peritoneum at that stage. So they've just washed out my peritoneum with antibiotics. And then we've got 3 times 24 French Blake drains with purse strings to secure them. So that's 3 more tubes basically that were put into my abdomen and were secured. A Tenkoff catheter was placed in my rear lower quadrant. So that's another tube coming out of me. And then they had to sew me up. So a PDS fascia, so hang on, so I've looked this up. A PDS fascia is a polydioxanode suture that they use when they're sewing you up. And basically they need to sew you up 3 times. They have to sew up the fascia, and the fascia is the muscular part, or the part below the muscles, I think it might be. And then you have a subcutaneous closure, which is another one, and then you close the skin. So you basically have to stitch a person up in 3 different places when you sew them up. I'll give you a link to an article that talks about it. I'm not a surgeon. I'm just reading that you need to do it 3 times when you do it. So I'll let you actually read that for yourself. So they've done 1 times PDS fascia, then they've used Victrol and they've stapled my skin. So actually they've only actually sewn me up twice. They've done the fascia and they've done the skin. So they haven't done that subcutaneous one. So I guess the PDS must do that with it. And then a leak test negative. So they were happy with me there. So at the end of that, the conclusion I'd come to is I'd had one hell of a surgery, and there was no sort of feeling when I read that they definitely got it all, and I'm cancer free, and I'm going to die of old age. I had no feeling of that whatsoever. The feeling I had was this cancer has come back since the first operation, and the first operation is by and large has been anti-cancer as much as the first one was, and it's going to fail just like the first one did, which means my first blood test after the operation is going to come back with a low but abnormal amount of tumour marker in it, which is why I was so surprised when it came back not just in the normal range, but in the bottom half of the normal range. You know, I got 1 out of 5 and 17 out of 37. So both of those are in the lower 50% of their ranges. Really surprised me. I'll take it. I just don't really understand it. But, you know, my life continues to be a bit of a mystery like that, I guess. So that's my unexpected good news to share with you. So I don't know when I'll pass away, but it appears that it's not going to be, certainly not in the next 3 months, and probably not in the next 6 months. So I've shared that good news with you. Speaking about other good news, I want to also share with you something I did to do something nice for Caroline, because I know that you've all come to love her as much as I do, and yeah, there's a fair amount of, you know, sadness, or at least hard times or quiet times in the house now, and I wanted to have something that was actually joyful. So what I did was I used some of your money, so you're part of this, to pay for an in-home massage for Caroline and I. And Caroline loved it. She really, really loved it. And it was really nice to do something that she really enjoyed and that brought happiness to the house. And it felt great. And yeah, it felt great. And it was also really nice that I was really conscious at the time that I was using the donated money to pay for it, which means you were all part of it. And that was really important to me, because I've read the comments that you write about her, and I know that you love her. So I had no doubt that I was spending the money in a way that you would enjoy. So that was really good. Oh, okay, I'll try and recover myself. Yeah, so I did that. So that was a great success. Probably will do it again. Caroline's birthday is coming up, so that'll probably be my gift to her. Or our gift to her, actually, because you'll pay for it. Yeah, that's what we're going to do for Caroline's birthday. Now, you'd remember that last Sunday, Caroline's family was coming over for a Sunday lunch, and that Caroline's dad was bringing his car over, and I was going to be fitting a fog light to it. As it turned out, when I had a look at it, it turned out that it wasn't the fog light that was damaged. It was actually the mounting bracket, which is part of the bumper. And that meant that I didn't have the right parts to fix the car. And I would also say that I normally love Toyota. I normally have nothing but good things to say about them. But on this one occasion, I'll say that Toyota, that bracket that you made for that fog light is really flimsy, and it wouldn't have taken much for you to have reinforced that, and it would have held that light and it wouldn't have broken. So do better next time, Toyota. You know, an extra 1 cent of plastic and you would have had a much more robust bumper. Anyway, that's the end of that. Now, a few of you have asked how I've gone with my peripheral neuropathy, and I want to talk about that. So what I've done is I've gone straight back on the P. So remember, P is palmitoyl ethanol amide, known in the industry as PEA or P. And I've gone straight back onto it with 1,000 milligrams in the morning, 1,000 milligrams at night. It took about 10 or 14 days to kick back in. And if you remember the first time around, it took nearly 90 days to kick back in. So it clearly is something that accumulates in your body and has a relatively long half-life. But I didn't go back on the duloxetine. So I've only gone on one of the two things that I presume was keeping my peripheral neuropathy at bay last time. What I've found is 10 to 14 days later, I've felt the effect. So instead of being my whole foot that's aching and burning and painful, it's only really the top third. However, it's aching, that top third that is aching more than I remember before. So my interpretation of that is that P helps. It gets rid of, let's say, 70% of the peripheral neuropathy. However, when you do it in conjunction with duloxetine, instead of getting rid of 70%, you get rid of closer to 90%. So I'm in all likelihood, I'm going to go back on duloxetine as well, because if it's pain that I don't need to suffer and all I need to do is take a pill each day, I'm just going to take that pill each day. That's fine. I haven't gone back on the duloxetine yet. I want to have a word to my GP first, because it'll mean that I'm on more than one antidepressant, which I have done in the past and it worked. I think I'm actually fine. I just want to have a talk to my GP. I'm pretty sure she's going to say it's fine. I didn't get serotonin syndrome, so I think I'm probably all right. Yeah, so that's that. Now, I want to close out with something really fun. So you'd remember before Caroline and I were dog sitting a dog called Barkley Jones. We are now dog sitting again, and we're dog sitting a Dachshund called Chico. And I can see Chico is sleeping over there. Chico! No, she wants to have a sleep. So I'll just run over and grab her because she is the cutest thing. Let me go and get her. Hey girl, hello. Come on, you come and say hi to camera. Come on. So this is Chico. Say hi. Put your feet down. There you go. Good girl. Oh, you're not quite in camera. There you go. So this is Chico. So she is a Dachshund. You know I love etymologies. So just to point out, Dachshund is German for badger dog. So Dachs means badger and Hund means dog. And this here is a badger dog. So she's really, really cute. She's quite short. And I'll pop up some photos of her on the end slides just so you can see how cute she's been around the place. And we're minding her for, I think it's 4 or 5 days. So yeah, this is fun. That's all I've got to say today. I hope you've enjoyed this update. I hope you can click like and care. And yeah, be kind and make good choices. Which of course is a reference to Sarah Pogg, who we remember very fondly. Okay, see ya.